welcome in, one and all. I am now going to be reviewing the last regular season week of the NFL. It's hard to believe that uh, the season's done. I can't believe it. I know I've been saying this for weeks, but it honestly feels like the season just started and now it's all over. I am just as shocked as anybody else. It feels like the NFL season compared to any other league, whether it's hockey, basketball, or baseball. This has got to be the shortest regular season and postseason because every other playoffs in other sports is like a best of five, a best of seven. With football, it's one and done. So there's no like best of three, best of five, best of seven. So the fastest regular season and the fastest postseason as well when it comes to the NFL. So I'm going to be reviewing all of my picks for Week 18, see who actually won, review the scores, and where the teams stand at the end of the year. So starting with the Pittsburgh Steelers, they went into Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The Steelers were fighting for their playoff lives coming into this match. They were sitting at 9-7. As for the Ravens, I knew they were going to rest a lot of their players because they already have a first round bye. So there's really no need to play anybody, especially when you have nothing to play for. The Steelers would come away with the victory in this one. The final score would be 17-10. So with that, the Steelers improved to 10-7, and they did clinch a playoff spot as a wild card team. So they finished with 10-7. The Baltimore Ravens would finish with a 13-4 record. But like I said, it didn't matter if they won or lost. They literally had nothing to gain and nothing to lose. All right. The next matchup takes place in Indianapolis. I'm pretty sure that all of these games are all divisional matchups as well. So I'll get the teams on the screen as we speak. All right. So both these teams are coming into this last week at 9-7. So therefore, one team was guaranteed to get in the postseason, while the other team was most likely going to be kicked out. And it was a close matchup to say the least. The final score would be 23-19 in favor of the Texans. They are now not only in the postseason, but I will get to where they position in just a quick second. But I don't think anybody would have pegged them in the postseason, especially myself. I thought they were going to be in a rebuild, but CJ Stroud has proven that he's legit and he's going to be a starter for this team for many years to come. I can only imagine how much he's going to want to make once his rookie contract, expires. So for the Colts, obviously a very tough season. I didn't have that high of expectation. They were doing great with when they had Quentin Richardson, who obviously they drafted last year, or this past year, sorry. And then Gardner Minshew came in relief, and he did win them some games, but unfortunately he was not able to win the big game, which was this one here. So the Colts would finish the season with a 9-8 record, and the Texans with the victory got a 10-7 record to close out the season. All right, next matchup takes place in the NFC South, where we have the Carolina Panthers, and they played host to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, so for the Bucks, they had a lot on the line, to say the least. They could have wrapped this division up a week ago, but unfortunately they fell to the Saints, so they needed to win over the Panthers in order to secure their third straight NFC South title, and they did. A very narrow contest, 9-0, would be the final score. So with that, the Panthers close out the season with a 2-15 record. Uh, but unfortunately, because they traded for DJ Moore, the Bears actually get the number one overall pick. So it's crazy to think that had the Panthers not traded, they would have been guaranteed the number one pick. But because they traded for DJ Moore, that he is now the Bears now have two first round picks in this year's NFL draft. So the Buccaneers, like I said, they did win. They did secure their third straight NFC South title. They finished with a 9-8 record, which is ironic because they won this division last year with an 8-9 record, and they had Tom Brady at the helm. They get a 9-8 record with Baker Mayfield. So they had a one-win improvement from the season prior. We'll see how they do in the postseason. All right, off to the AFC North. where we had the Cincinnati Bengals taking on their state rivals in the Cleveland Browns. Okay, so for both these teams, they were pretty much locked into one was guaranteed to get in the postseason, the other one was not. For the Bengals, obviously, this is very heartbreaking after making the postseason the last 2 years, and then Joe Burrow went down with a season-ending injury. And yeah, they had their backup, which I believe was Browning, if I'm not mistaken, but unfortunately, he was not able to lead them to the promised land, and they would finish with an 9-8 record, which isn't that bad, but because other teams had 10 and 11 wins respectively, they were not able to get a wild card berth. Speaking of wild card, the Browns, even though they lost the game, 31-14 was the final score, they still had the number 5 seed locked in, and they will be facing the AFC South champions, and I'll get to them in just a second. All right. Who would have guessed that Joe Flacco would be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns? It's still surreal for me, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. Obviously, being a Baltimore Raven forever. All right, off to the NFC North, where we had the Detroit Lions, and they took on the Minnesota Vikings. So for the Vikings, they were coming into this matchup 7-9. They were not making the postseason. As for the Detroit Lions, I know I've said this for the past 3 or 4 weeks. They have made the postseason, and they will have a home field playoff game for the first time in 30 years. So I'm sure it's going to feel very good for them. They did start a lot of their guys because they were still hoping to possibly lock in that number 2 seed in the NFC, but unfortunately, they did not. They were not able to do that, so they are locked in them. They've locked themselves in as the number 3 seed with a 11-5 record. They did get the victory of the Vikings, so I'm sure they're very happy about that. The final score would be 30-20. All right, off to the AFC East, where we have the New England Patriots, and they took on the New York Jets. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. Both these teams have been officially eliminated from the postseason. The Jets are coming into this matchup at 6-10. The Patriots coming into this matchup at 4-12. I did think that what I'll do is I'll just review everything, and then I'll talk about who I thought would win and who actually did. The Patriots would lose this matchup. 17-3 would be the final score. The Patriots finishing the season 4-13, and the Jets would finish the season at 7-10. All right, back to the NFC South. We had the New Orleans Saints, and they were playing host to the Atlanta Falcons. So the Falcons are coming in this matchup at 7-9, had a very slim chance of making the postseason. I think the only way they could have won the NFC South is if they beat the Saints and the Buccaneers lost to the Panthers, but that would have been pretty far-fetched. They did lose to the Saints. The final score would be 48-17, an absolute blowout to say the least. The Saints, despite finishing with a 9-8 record, will be missing the postseason yet again. And I'm sure it can't be easy for Saints fans to be not in the playoffs since Drew Brees retired after the 2020-2021 campaign. All right. Staying in the South, but flipping it to the AFC, the Tennessee Titans, they took on the Jacksonville Jaguars. So for the Jaguars, and I found this stat unbelievable, they started the season off 8-3, so well over halfway into the season. Coming into this matchup, they were at 9-7. So they only had 1 win and 4 losses since that time, which is unbelievable for the Titans. Obviously, missing the postseason for the second consecutive season. What I found very ironic was that this time last year, the Jaguars beat out the Titans in order to get the AFC South crown and push the Titans out of the playoffs. And this year, karma came back, and the Titans knocked the Jaguars out of the postseason, as the Houston Texans, as I discussed earlier, defeated the um, Colts. So now the AFC South champions are the Houston Texans. Jaguars missing out of the postseason for the first time or second time in 3 years. So I'm sure if you're a Jags fan, you're probably a little bitter, to say the least. All right, off to the AFC West, where we have the Arizona Cardinals, and they played host to the Seattle Seahawks. So coming into this matchup, the Cardinals were sitting at 4-12, and the Seahawks were sitting at 8-8. The Seahawks were fighting for their playoff life, to say the least. They did come away with a victory. 21-20 would be the final score. I should have also noted that the Titans and Jaguars, the final score from that one was 28-20. So I just wanted to make that little side note. I did for the Seahawks. They were able to win, like I said, 21-20, but because for whatever reason they missed out in the postseason, as another team was able to squeak in to the number 7 spot, and I will review them very shortly. So yeah, the Seahawks finished with 9-8 record. The Cardinals finished with a 4-13 record. We'll see what 2024 brings to both these teams in the upcoming regular season. All right, now we're off to the NFC North, where we had the Green Bay Packers playing host to the Chicago Bears. Coming in this matchup, the Bears are sitting at 7-9, therefore not making the postseason. As for the Packers, a win for them, and they got in and locked in the number 7 seed, and that's exactly what happened. The final score in this one would be 17-9, so just a one-possession game is what sealed the deal for the Packers in this one. So they finished with a 9-8 record, similar to the Seahawks, but either they beat the Seahawks earlier or whatever the case may be is, but the Packers are in, Seahawks are out. Plain and simple. All right, off to the AFC West. We have the Los Angeles Chargers, and they are playing host to the Kansas City Chiefs. Coming in this matchup, the Chiefs are sitting at 10-6. They already claimed the AFC West crown the week prior. And as for the Chargers, a very bad season went horribly wrong. They're coming into this matchup with a 5-11 record. The Chiefs did win a close contest, 13-12 would be the final score. So with that, the Chiefs improved to 11-6. They did lock down the number 3 seed in the AFC. And as for the Chargers, they would drop to 5-12. So here's hoping they get a decent draft pick, and we'll see how next season goes. All right, off to the NFC East, where we had the host team in the New York Football Giants, and they're playing against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are coming in this matchup sitting at 11-5. The Giants had the exact opposite record. They were sitting at 5-11. My gut told me the Eagles should be able to win this one and make things interesting when it came to that NFC East crown, but unfortunately, they got absolutely blown out of the water at halftime. I think it was like 24-0. In the second half, the Eagles scored 10 points. The Giants got 3. So the final score would be 27-10 in favor of the G-Men. I never would have saw this coming. I think the Eagles lost like 6 of their last 7 or 8 games. Unbelievable considering how much hype was around this team. They obviously made the Super Bowl last year, and now they're going into the postseason as an away team. And unless the 7 seed and 6 team happen to upset the 2nd and 3rd seed respectively, the Eagles are almost guaranteed not going to see a home playoff game. So they have a lot of hard work ahead of them if they want to make a serious run in this postseason. All right, off to the NFC West, where we have the Los Angeles Rams. They're heading into San Francisco to take on the 49ers. So for the 49ers, just like the Ravens, they're coming to this matchup resting a lot of guys because they had nothing to win, nothing to gain, nothing to lose. So this was pretty much just like a lot of backups seeing a lot of action before the postseason begins. For the 49ers, that would happen in the divisional round, so they're guaranteed next week or this next weekend off, and then they'll be back to work in the divisional round. For the Los Angeles Rams, they're coming into this contest sitting at 9-7, and they had a lot to play for. They were fighting for their playoff lives, and they would secure the victory. The final score would be 21-20, so just a 1 point difference between both of these squads. So with that, I believe the Rams have now locked in the number 6 seed in the NFC, and there will be some postseason action for the Rams. But again, just like the Eagles, I'd be very doubtful that you'd see any home games for the Rams because they'd have to play the Packers, and I just don't see that happening in the NFC Championship. All right, back to the NFC East. We had the Dallas Cowboys, and they played in Washington to take on the Commanders. So Dallas is coming into this matchup sitting at 11-5. The Washington Commanders were sitting at 4-12. Therefore, no postseason action in DC. The Cowboys were able to prevail, get a huge road win. 38-10 would be the final score. With the victory, Dallas has improved to 12-5. They not only got the NFC East crown, but they locked in that number 2 seed as well. For the Washington Commanders, a very tough season, which finished with a 4-13 record. So we'll see where they finish in the standings league-wise and where they're at come the draft, where they're at in the standings, I guess, come draft. I think that's in March or April. All right, 2 more games on tap. Going back to the AFC West, we had the Las Vegas Raiders, and they were at home to take on my Denver Broncos. For both these teams, no postseason action. A very tough season for both squads. I think there was a lot of hype between both of these teams to hopefully make a push for the postseason. But for Vegas and Denver, respectively, there won't be any postseason for the NFL at least. The Broncos were coming in this matchup sitting at 500 at 8-8. The Raiders were sitting at 7-9. The Raiders would get the victory, 27-14 would be the final score. So that both these teams finished with an identical 8-9 record, but because the Raiders beat the Broncos twice, they would finish second in the AFC West. All right, and quite possibly the game of the week. There was so many implications for both of these teams as the Miami Dolphins played host to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills were coming in this matchup sitting at 10-6. The Dolphins had the lead in the AFC East at that point with an 11-5 record. The Bills came back and won a wild one. I'll never forget that before I went to work, the Bills were down 14-7 heading into the fourth quarter, and the Dolphins had the ball. So I was thinking when I was going to work that, okay, the Dolphins had this game wrapped up. Then I get a notification when I go for my break, and it said the Bills got their 4th straight AFC East title. And I'm thinking, holy cow, they got 2 scores in the final quarter, and they sure did. 14 points were scored in the fourth quarter. 21-14 would be the final score. So both these teams would finish with 11-6 records, respectively. The Bills would lock in that number 2 seed in the AFC, and for the Dolphins, they are now the number 6 seed in the AFC. So for this past week, I finished with an 11-5 record. I'll just go over the teams. So I picked Pittsburgh, they won. I picked Houston, they won. I picked Tampa, they won. I picked Cincy. So I picked Cleveland, they lost. I picked Detroit. I picked New England, but New England lost. I picked New Orleans. I picked Jacksonville, but Jacksonville lost. I picked Arizona, but Seattle won. I picked Green Bay, Kansas City. Again, I picked Philadelphia. Huge mistake. I picked the Rams, the Cowboys, the Vegas, and the Bills. So I finished week 18 of the NFL season with an 11-5 record. My overall record from weeks 1 to 18 is 155-97. Not too shabby. I finished with less than 100 losses on the year, so I'll take that anytime. Going forward, I think it's going to be Thursday or Friday. I will make my preview for the wild card round of the NFL season, and I will have a special guest. I think Thursday I will be doing a live video talking with a colleague of mine, and we'll be talking about NFL and playoff football. So if you're into that, please tune in. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. As always, if you like this type of content, please feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. I think I already said that already, but again, I'd be very grateful and very appreciative as always. So, as well. All right, that's enough of me. Thank you all. This has been a wonderful 2023 NFL season. I've had a lot of fun making these previews and reviews for you. Anyway, enough of me rambling on. Hope you all have a great day and take care.